I'm Jeff Shultz. I run business development for Clicker. I'm here to talk about and show you Clicker.com and Clicker.tv. Before I do, and maybe to buy some time, is this live? And maybe to buy some time, I'll tell you why we bothered to build Clicker. So, the premise of Clicker is looking back to 1953 with the advent of the TV guide and the massive universe of content that it indexed in the form of 3 networks, 48 time slots, and as a result, a whopping 144 daily content choices. At that time, the index in the form of a printed guide was actually a pretty sufficient form of indexing what's available online. But that changed with the advent of cable, dozens of networks followed by hundreds of networks, and the resulting tens of thousands of content choices. Awesome. Beautiful. And the resulting tens of thousands of content choices. So the guide paradigm changed. The navigation paradigm evolved, and we saw electronic programming guides still in the form of grids, but with more information and more functionality, and that worked pretty well for a time. And then most recently, we saw the addition of non-linear content in the form of video on demand and the DVR that started to break the guide model. That made it very difficult to find what you wanted to find within the sort of constraints of how people typically find stuff on television. And today we're in a world where there are practically limitless forms of content online, limitless content options. And so with thousands of web shows, thousands of TV episodes, broadcast quality TV, movies, cable TV with the with TV Everywhere initiatives right around the corner, how do you find what you want to find, what to watch in this limitless content universe? And so that's the problem we sought out to solve at Clicker, and the answer, the short answer to the solution is structure. And so what we created was the first and only structured, comprehensive, and impartial map of the universe of content online, stretching from the web original you may have never heard of before to a mainstream motion picture. And so let me show you what I mean by structure. We're at Clicker.com, which is the first, which launched last year. It was the first front end of the Clicker database. We most recently launched Clicker.tv, and I'll show you that in a moment. But what structure means is that the Clicker database knows that Lost is a TV show. Unlike 10 blue links, we're now on a page, clicker.com/TV/Lost, that will always exist. It would exist even if there weren't Lost episodes online. But in this case, there are hundreds across 4 different content sources, 3 different business models. What structure lets us do is pull all of those various business models and different content sources into one place where a user can manipulate them as they see fit. So what I mean by that is, here's a listing of the Lost episodes that are available online by way of any business model, by way of any content source. And what I can do as a user, for example, I might cut down the database now that it's in one place and make it fit me. I have a Netflix subscription, and otherwise content is free by way of Hulu or ABC. So now this is the universe of content that I could watch as a consumer with no incremental cost of streaming. If we go to a episode page, just like the database knows that Lost is a show, it knows that the end part 2 is an episode. Let me show you another example of the benefits of structure. Charlie Rose has been talking apparently nonstop for the last 15 years because, believe it or not, he's recorded 2,500 episodes of his talk show. And those episodes exist online across 3 different content sources, and none of those individual content sources contains all of Charlie Rose's content. So as a result, the structure within the Clicker database is the only place where you can pull that piece of structure out and look within it to see what's inside. And what I mean by that is let's search for, say, Bill Gates. This is now taking that piece of structure out of the database and looking within it and saying, here are the 17 times that Bill Gates has appeared on the Charlie Rose Show, regardless of content source. This one apparently is at Google. This one is at charlierose.com. And so there's this ability for us to pull across and normalize for users where if you were interested in finding Bill Gates on Charlie Rose without Clicker, you would have to go to all three of those sites and hope to find what you were looking for. Let me show you another example of the benefits of structure. Oh, sorry. Nonfiction verticals has become an increasingly important part of the content landscape. This has largely driven the growth of cable over the course of the last decade. And so a nonfiction vertical search like pasta recipes on Clicker is a really interesting illustration of what the content universe is going to look like going forward. There are thousands, as you can imagine, of possible pasta recipe content sources online. If you were to search for pasta recipes as an unstructured way, say like by Google, you wouldn't be able to do what you do here, which is to say the first result, for whatever reason, the algorithm, is a web original. The second is a major television brand. The third is an online brand. We've got a print brand. We've got ABC, all sort of pulled into one place where, again, it's a piece of structure that someone who's interested in recipes can look across. And it's a really interesting way for us to sort of level the playing field. So let me show you a couple more things. Once you've built the structure, you can build some interesting things on top of it, like live. And what I mean by this is the database is what is this content, and the surrounding metadata, along with where is it online, and how, what are the business rules associated with it, but it also can be when. And so a few weeks ago, we launched Clicker Live, which is a map of what's happening live on the internet today. And I looked before, we were actually on here before, but apparently not anymore. So this is the picture of what's going on online today. And so if we wanted to plan out our internet viewing for Friday, here it is. We've got Aussie Rules football at 5 a.m., so don't forget to set your alarm. We've got baseball, we've got news, and that sort of thing. So this is that picture of the live video web that where would you find it if someone hadn't taken the time to pull the structure into sort of one place. Let me show you what I think is one of the most, we'll go back to Lost as an example, one of the most interesting benefits of structure. So here we are at Lost as a show. There are two things that this page has on it that I didn't point out before. One is related recommendations, algorithmically driven set of recommendations, which is basically, if you're interested in Lost, you might be interested in these other things. And this is our sort of other way of answering the question, what are you going to watch? The other thing I want to show you is right here. I can add to my playlist a given show or an episode or a person even, and here's my playlist. The word playlist doesn't quite do it justice. It's essentially a cloud DVR. This is not storing content, it's providing dynamic links to content wherever it exists out in the content universe, pulling it into a package that I can manage myself. And so this is the content that I care about. So we just added Lost. I can even set the service to email me when new episodes are made available. So let me show you what that looks like on Clicker TV. Clicker.tv is a web-optimized, a 10-foot optimized version of the Clicker website and database. We launched it a couple of weeks ago in connection with Google at the Google I/O. The reason for that being that it's a brilliant example of how much you can do with HTML5. This site exists in the browser. It doesn't involve a download. It doesn't involve a plugin. This is a level of functionality that you used to need to create some sort of software for, and now can happen just in the browser. We're looking at this in Firefox right now. So this is the home page on Clicker TV. I can use my cursor, just navigating my cursor right and left, to go through trending shows, popular shows, trending episodes, things that have been editorially selected to be at the top of the list. If I wanted to search, I could go to a search box here, but I also can just start typing. So I've just started typing the database has recognized lost. I could search for lost, but it also is giving me this autocomplete suggestion. So here I am in a sort of cut-down version of the Clicker database with a little less data optimized for a 10-foot experience. You can imagine yourself sitting back, using your remote control, navigating with cursor keys to find and manage content online. So categories, I failed to mention before, there's about 1 million assets in the Clicker database across thousands of content sources, and we've editorially put those content sources into 1,400 categories. Those categories are a way for us to map content against one another in Clicker.com, but on Clicker TV, it's actually a really meaningful method for navigation. So I can actually use these categories to drill down into this vast content database and find content that I'm interested this way.